space continues to confuse, mystify, and inspire us all. If there is one thing that can unite every last person on planet Earth, it's that we all belong to the same tiny speck floating in the vastness of space. We are all tied to our own little corner of space, and our shared perspective is fixed to this big blue ball we call home. So it should come as no surprise that space discoveries are one of the most popular scientific topics. From experts to lay people, there are not many people who do not love a good space discovery. So today we have some exciting space discoveries. So whether you're a certified scientist or just like to learn more about the universe, here are 3 recent discoveries from beyond the stars. Astronomers find sprites in Jupiter's atmosphere for the first time. No, it is not something taken from your favorite fantasy TV or book series. Scientists really labeled their most recent discovery on Jupiter as elves and sprites. The fantastically named discovery was made via NASA's Juno mission, which is giving researchers unprecedented information on the massive gas giant. But these so-called sprites are not little creatures running around the distant planet. Instead, they are being used to refer to strange luminous phenomena, specifically a series of very bright and unpredictable bursts of light. NASA spoke about the discovery and stated that these kinds of light events have never been seen on another planet before. Scientists had predicted such events could take place in the solar system's largest planets, but this is the first confirmation that they do indeed take place. Scientists made the strange discovery when they were observing Jupiter's liquid-like atmosphere, when Juno's UV instruments picked up the odd phenomena. Speaking of the discovery, a Juno scientist named Giles said, "UVS was designed to characterize Jupiter's beautiful northern and southern lights, but we discovered UVS images that not only show Jovian aura, but also a bright flash of UV light over in the corner where it wasn't supposed to be. The more our team looked into it, the more we realized Juno may have detected a TLE on Jupiter." When the scientists use the word sprite, what they are referring to is an event of transient light that is caused by huge storms beneath it. These events also happen on Earth, but are not seen to last more than a number of milliseconds. Elves also does not refer to anything related to the pointy-eared creatures you might be thinking of. In fact, it stands for emission of light and very low frequency perturbations due to electromagnetic pulse sources. These strange events have an appearance like flat disks and are seen in upper regions of atmospheres. On Earth, sprites and elves appear reddish in color due to their interaction with nitrogen in the upper atmosphere, said Giles. But on Jupiter, the upper atmosphere mostly consists of hydrogen, so they would likely appear either blue or pink. A giant black hole keeps evading detection in Able 2261. Black holes are not known for their ability to be photographed. In fact, when it happened for the first time, it was a big deal. Because of their vacuous nature, scientists tend to use the effects black holes have on their environment in order to pinpoint them. And after decades of black hole study, you would think we would be pretty good at spotting where they are by now. But there is one specific black hole, a giant one, that keeps giving scientists the slip. It is believed that a supermassive black hole exists at the center of most galaxies, if not all of them, and yet, in a galaxy in the space cluster known as Able 2261, roughly 2.7 billion light-years away, we do not have concrete evidence of one. According to what we already know about black hole behavior, there should be a gigantic black hole at the center of Able 2261, so big that it would weigh anywhere between 3 billion to 10 billion suns, according to the galaxy's overall mass. Researchers have used a variety of methods to try and capture the black hole and any evidence of its existence. Prior efforts involved using X-rays, specifically looking for any that came from the galaxy's center. This is because X-rays can be used to show black hole behavior, as X-rays are a side effect of the matter that enters the black hole and speeds up tremendously. This results in a lot of X-ray energy. Newer studies also did not find anything. Using better tech that searched deeper into the ABL cluster, the more recent effort looked elsewhere. Not just in the galaxy's center on the chance that the black hole had been knocked elsewhere because of a galactic merger. When huge objects collide with black holes, if the waves are not symmetrical, they can potentially change the black hole's course of direction. Scientists posited that this might be the reason they were unable to find the supermassive black hole. These types of events are currently only hypothetical. NASA officials said the following on the matter. It is not known whether supermassive black holes even get close enough to each other to produce gravitational waves and merge. So far, astronomers have only verified the mergers of much smaller black holes. The detection of recoiling supermassive black holes would embolden scientists using and developing observatories to look for gravitational waves from merging supermassive black holes. They added, Able 2261 might be one of the best places to search for one of these events, as it shows a number of signs that it underwent a huge galactic merger at some point. The Hubble have each shown that at Able 2261's core, there is a much greater star density than would be expected of a galaxy of Able size. NASA officials said that the distance between the galaxy's center and the densest pack of stars was strikingly distant. Unfortunately, only time will tell if we are able to find the missing black star. Scientists want to store DNA of 6.7 million species. Group of researchers have proposed what has been described as a lunar arc, which, if ever executed, would see vast amounts of Earth's genetic material stored on the Moon in case of a cataclysmic event planetside. Almost like a biological safe state, the project would involve the creation of a vault to store and house material of Earth's 6.7 million species of plants, animals, and fungi. One of the head concept leaders on the project said the following, Earth is naturally a volatile environment. As humans, we had a close call about 75,000 years ago with the Toba supervolcanic eruption, which caused a 1,000-year cooling period and, according to some, aligns with an estimated drop in human diversity. Tanga is an aerospace researcher at the University of Arizona and pointed out that genetic material banks are already a thing here on Earth, such as the Svalbard seed vault in Norway. Yet these terrestrial banks could be jeopardized by climate change, conflict, or celestial events. Tanger went on to say that the risk factor actually defeats the purpose of these banks, and ensuring that there is a genetic arc on another celestial body, be it moon or planet, was vital. Though an exciting idea, this project would not be cheap, as it would require a significant construction project inside of our moon's hollow lava tubes. The walls of these tubes would help to protect the arc from environmental dangers as well as meteor strikes. The temperatures would also be useful for storage, as these hollow areas typically sit at around -15 degrees Celsius. Tanger is hopeful that we may seriously be able to consider the construction of such an arc in the next 30 years, as space travel becomes more viable. What do you make of these scientific discoveries? If there is one fact that prevails time and space, it is that mysteries will always be abundant. Every day we live our lives surrounded by hidden truths and the lurking unknown just waiting to be uncovered. Sometimes we find out shocking information that changes our view of the world. Whatever the case, humans are filled with undying curiosity that will always push us toward the pursuit of discovery. So today we'll be taking a look at 3 awe-inspiring mysteries discoverers. Skeleton found in England with a nail through its foot is evidence of Roman crucifixion. Archaeology is a field that allows us insight into the frozen fragments of the past. Archaeologists claim that they have discovered a skeleton with a nail lodged into its foot. While we have known about the ancient Roman method of execution via crucifixion for centuries, what makes this finding intriguing is the skeleton's placement. England evidence of Roman crucifixion in England is extremely uncommon, making this skeleton a lucky find. The cadaver was found during the excavation of an ancient Roman settlement dig in Fenstanton, Cambridgeshire. The area was first settled by Romans back in the 1st century AD. Overall, the archaeologists involved with digging up the settlement discovered 5 entire cemeteries. It is within one of these cemeteries that they found this particular nail-lodged skeleton, believed to be a grown man who passed away when he was between 25 and 35 years old. The Albion Archaeology Project manager David Ingham, responsible for leading the excavation, stated that they were unaware of the nails stuck in the skeleton's foot until they returned to the laboratory and were cleaning off the dirt-covered bones, so they could then analyze and observe them. According to Ingham, The feet were positioned on either side of the feet, fastened by horizontal nails through the heels, a grim way to go into the afterlife surely. The University of Cambridge's Corn Dewig, one of the university's archaeologists, worked with Ingham to analyze the nail and bone structure of the man's skeleton. Together, they discovered that the nail was, likely, forced through the foot during the act of crucifixion. This would make it the best preserved proof of ancient Roman crucifixion in the world, as well as the fourth piece of evidence to prove it even occurred. It's believed it was quite common as a manner of execution. However, proof of it is incredibly difficult to find. In fact, this Cambridge shear skeleton is only the second skeletal remain found with direct proof with the nail, as the two previous claims from Egypt and Italy respectively had no nail or anything associated with crucifixion inside the bones. Several decades prior, in 1968, there was a skeleton discovered in Jerusalem with a nail etched into the foot in a position akin to that of the Cambridge's skeleton. According to Ingham, everyone knows about crucifixion through Christianity. What people don't necessarily realize is that there were lots of different ways in which the Romans crucified people. So it is not just the classic image up on the cross, arms out, spread, feet together. Might have been for the body to be tied across the cross instead of nailed, as even in records where nails were utilized, they tended to be removed so that they could be reused. The nailing of feet might have also been a torture method less than it was about keeping the body affixed so victims could not move their legs into a less painful position. Ingham states it was relatively common, but it was still reserved for the most serious crimes, crimes that threaten the state, particularly sedition, witchcraft, that sort of thing. These were people who had seriously fallen out of favor with the state, to the extent that they had been crucified. It shows that Roman law was still applied even in the furthest provinces of the empire. The extreme west of the empire in Britain, which was a particularly disturbed place by the time that this person was living, in the 3rd and 4th centuries, there was lots of political upheaval. As a result of the disgrace that accompanied such an end to one's life, family and friends often abandoned the body without giving it a burial. The corpse would then rot, reclaimed by the earth, and concealing evidence of the crucifixion. Nearly 8,000 strange blue lakes have appeared in Antarctica. Researchers claim that a myriad of bright blue lakes have mysteriously formed in eastern Antarctica. These lakes are rapidly appearing on the continent's icy sheets and are beginning to deeply concern scientists. These lakes, though unexpected, are not a first-time happening. Between 2011 and 2014 in Greenland, similar lakes were forming on the country's ice sheets, resulting in a shocking 1 trillion tons worth of lost ice melted into thousands of lakes. In the UK, a team of scientists have been studying the meteorological images and findings regarding the Landhove Glacier in eastern Antarctica. In between the years 2000 and 2013, it was discovered that almost 8,000 lakes have appeared. In the span of 13 short years, a plethora of these ice lakes have covered the surface of eastern Antarctica. Many of these lakes are referred to as meltwater lakes or as superglacial. This means that they seem to drain the floating ice below them, endangering the whole ice shelf they have formed on, as it could disbalance the ice-to-water ratio. The frightful part of this news is that scientists believed prior to this discovery that eastern Antarctica was doing okay with the rising ocean temperatures, and have neglected observing it in favor of the much weaker and more susceptible to heat Antarctic peninsula. This proves that we know little about superglacial lakes and how they might impact the icy continent further. Stuart Jameson from Durham University, one of the researchers, has stated, "The East Antarctic is part of the continent where people have for quite a long time assumed that it's relatively stable. There's not a huge amount of change. It's very, very cold, and so it's only very recently that the first superglacial lakes on top of the ice were identified. These lakes are not eternal, they disappear. Sometimes they refreeze, which is fortunate when it happens, but sometimes they overflow into surface rivers, which can lead to travesty. As shown by Greenland's disintegrating ice sheets, these lakes will likely speed up the ice melting and rising ocean level process. The effects of climate change are becoming increasingly more undeniable. In the summers of 2012 and 2013, the number of new lakes forming rose by a frightful 36%, especially in the area of Langhof's Glacier. Fortunately, this is not the beginning of the end yet. However, should things continue down this path, it will lead to 1,000 problems in the future. 2016 was the hottest recorded summer in Antarctic history so far, causing even more superglacial lakes. In Jameson's own words, the size of the lakes are probably not big enough to do much at present. But if climate warming continues in the future, we can only expect the size and number of these lakes to increase. Traces of solar system's oldest molecular fluid found in meteorite. Upon a winter morning in the year 2000, just above Canada's beautiful skies, an ancient meteor fell into the Earth's atmosphere and exploded into 1,000 tiny shards that fell onto the Tagish Lake in British Columbia. The shards were titled the Tagish Lake Meteorite Shards. When Tagish hit our atmosphere, its mass was believed to be at 200 tons. The mass burnt up in what appeared to be a huge ball of fire. This fiery display was what prompted researchers to recover the shards and analyze them. The shards have been kept in freezers ever since. Analyzed to be about 4.5 billion years old and containing what is believed to be ancient chemistry within them, these little meteorite fragments possibly hold the key to uncovering more about our solar system's birth. We know water was abundant in the early solar system, but there is very little direct evidence of the chemistry or acidity of these liquids, even though they would have been critical to the early formation and evolution of amino acids and eventually microbial life. Using new atom probe technology, White's crew can take an even closer look at the components that form the meteorite. Their research revealed tiny rhomboidal magnetite grains inside the shards. Rhomboidal grains resemble tiny raspberries in shape and need much sodium to form, meaning that the meteorites had to form in sodium-rich alkaline environments. The fluid that might have made them must have been around when the solar system was still in its infancy. We do not yet know, and probably will not know for a long time, how the solar system actually formed, but missing puzzle pieces such as these help take us one step closer to discovering the exciting truth. Scientists are studying the meteorite's amino acids, pH, natural temperature, among other things that will help them to determine vital things about its formation. Beth Leimer, a meteorite researcher, states, "Amino acids are essential building blocks of life on Earth, yet we still have a lot to learn about how they first formed in our solar system. The more variables that we can constrain, such as temperature and pH, allows us to better understand the synthesis and evolution of these very important molecules into what we now know as biotic life on Earth. Who knows what the advancement of our technology or future discoveries will bring? Only time will tell. But what do you make of these fascinating discoveries? There are mysteries all around us, and we are fascinated by what we cannot understand. Inexplicable phenomena are discovered every day, keeping our curiosity piqued and the prospect of knowing the world around us a foreign concept. So today, we'll be exploring 3 fascinating discoveries, taking you from planets close to home like Saturn to more distant parts of the universe largely unknown to man and interstellar worlds on the brink of destruction. Eerie sounds emitted between Saturn and its moon Enceladus. We all know that the Earth and our moon's relationship is pretty much gravitational. The moon affects our tides, for example, but that is about as exciting as it gets. Recently, however, scientists have uncovered that Saturn and its 6th largest moon, Enceladus, have some strange bond, observable through an eerie sound emitted between them despite being thousands of miles away from each other. Detected by the Cassini-Saturn orbiter, astronomers monitored wave signals with the aim of analyzing different energy levels surrounding the surface of the gas giant. As the Cassini orbiter circled closer to the target planet, scientists discovered patterns created by high-energy plasma, a very hot, highly charged form of gas, being passed between Saturn and its moon Enceladus. To gas to plasma, so it means it must by nature carry the most energy. Curious as to the significance of these signals, experts realized upon further examination that the plasma patterns resembled those of wave sounds and thus decided to convert the data into audio files which could be listened to. What they discovered next was apparently a whooshing sound like that of a jet passing over your head. This is the first time that any such energy signals have been recorded between these two celestial beings, and it seems as though the waves exchanged between Saturn and Enceladus travel directly along magnetic field lines, very similar to an electrical circuit flow of energy. Further information from the research team using the radioplasma wave science machine found more electromagnetic signals in the audio frequency range, which prove a strong yet constantly changing interaction between Saturn and Enceladus. Enceladus itself as a moon differs to ours. It is fully immersed in Saturn's magnetic field and is geologically active. Its surface is characterized by being icy yet with hydrothermal activity, spewing water vapor and icy particles which then fill its surrounding atmosphere. While a few other planets and moons are thought to also have liquid water oceans beneath an icy shell like this one, Enceladus is the only one where water from beneath its crust is sprayed into space, where our spacecrafts can sample it. All these discoveries just about Enceladus and its relationship with Saturn go to show just how much there is to learn about our neighboring planets with whom we share the Sun, and that discoveries in all corners of space are still being made every day. NASA's Hubble Space Telescope spots the most distant ordinary star ever observed. The night sky is quite a sight, beautiful to look at, dotted with little twinkles and glimmers of light here and there, reaching us from thousands of light years away. Among those pretty specks is also the most distant star ever seen, and it's not a supernova. It has detected light from a star now called Icarus, but formerly known as the Mouthful Max J 11492223 lensed star 1. When first observed, Icarus was a mind-blowing 9 billion light-years away. However, over time, this distance has only increased. That said, according to experts, Icarus will also have faded in this time, forming either a black hole or, to put this better into perspective, 9 billion light-years ago takes us 3/4 of the way back in time to almost the Big Bang. The reason this discovery is more amazing is that stars this far away from us usually cannot be detected even with the strongest and best technologies unless they have the energy and brightness of a supernova. Hence, the fact that Icarus was a normal star when it was picked up by the Hubble telescope makes it a record-breaking discovery. With astronomers saying that it is more than 100 times further away than the next most distant observable star, they also think that it must have been luck at how the heavens above aligned, allowing us to see this star in a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Now that Icarus has faded and progressed past being an ordinary star, who knows if a new staggeringly distant star will be discovered to take its place in the record books. Newly found exoplanets. On the edge of destruction, 3 newly found exoplanets detected by NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite mission have been found to be on the edge of destruction. How many, you ask? It turns out that these 3 exoplanets have orbits so short around their central subgiant or gas stars that very soon they will be led into a path of complete destruction, being absorbed by their host stars in less than 1 million years. This is the shortest lifespan of any exoplanets currently known, with 1 million years left being sooner than any of the other thousands of known planets currently. In a giant step towards our knowledge of exoplanets, experts have said that this discovery with 3 exoplanets displaying this behavior will give us invaluable insight into the lives and behaviors of planetary systems and how they evolve. Added that it will also offer new windows into planets nearing the end of their lives before their host stars swallow them up. These exoplanets were discovered from data collected from tests back in 2018 and 2019. However, the veracity of the finds and their existence had to be confirmed, and so astronomers on the case turned to the W.M. Keck Observatory's high-resolution E-shell spectrometer in Hawaii to determine that it was indeed genuine. With the 3 exoplanets under observation officially announced at an American astronomical conference, we now know that they are called TOI 2337b, TOI 4329b, and TOI 2669b, and have masses ranging from 0.5 to 1.7 times that of Jupiter, with dimensions in size of slightly smaller than Jupiter to 1.6 times. They also have widely varied densities, meaning that other than their short remaining lifespan, they are not all that similar and likely have completely different origins. In recognition of this monumental discovery, the research reports from these findings have been accepted for publication in the Astronomical Journal. It is expected that these 3 exoplanets, while currently the only known of their kind, are likely just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to exoplanets nearing their end. The hope is that further missions like NASA's TESS will continue to gather related data, extending to research on how planetary systems interact with each other, inflate and migrate around their grounding stars, their equivalents of our Sun. With 3 exoplanets to add to the list of fascinating cosmic discoveries and the potential to learn so much more about life expectancies of planetary systems, there is no doubt that there will be much more exciting news about our universe with each new mission we set forth. We are still in the process of constantly discovering and learning about our own histories, our planet histories, and those unfolding millions of light years away. But what do you make of these fascinating discoveries? How much do we really know? When it comes to our history, our planet, and our very own existence, it turns out we know very little. And though that prospect might be on the daunting side, it is incredibly inspiring for researchers who are ready to find the answers to our biggest questions. So today, we will be looking at 3 incredible discoveries. Inside the lost cave world of the Amazon's Tepuy Mountains, can you imagine exploring a world totally different to our own? Could you picture a place surrounded by giant cliffs, dense with thick jungle shrubbery, existing high up in the clouds? You might be surprised to learn that you do not have to imagine. What we are describing are known as the Tepuy, giant tabletop mesas found in South America that are a treasure trove of discovery. These giant, flat mountain ranges shoot up from the middle of the Amazon basin, and their name, Tepuy, means House of the Gods in their native tongue of the Pemen people, the indigenous group who inhabit the Grand Sabana. But now, scientists are finally exploring these mysterious and monolithic mountains and are revealing a hidden world beneath their crust. It is in large part to the work of speleologist Francesco Soro of the University of Bologna in Italy, who has led multiple expeditions to the region to learn more about these beautiful ancient mountains. In January 2022, Soro and his team completed a 40-day-long expedition to previously unexplored caves within the Tepuy. Not only are these Tepuy hard to access on their own, but the caves within them stand to be some of the last unexplored caves on Earth. The team's focus was on the Tepuy known as Imawari Yeta in Venezuela. The cave system is known to have at least 22 kilometers of tunnel beneath the surface and is currently the largest known example of its kind. If all of this was not amazing enough, seeing the cave systems themselves will really take your breath away. With a presence almost like that of some alien world, the Tepuy caves are a true spectacle. The cave walls typically display a light pink color. Meanwhile, water that runs through is colored red thanks to material present in the cave streams. They are a completely different world, says Soro, who has seen the caves firsthand. Speleothems are what we call stalactites and stalagmites, and those in the Tepuy are stunning. How they came to possess such peculiar billowing shapes is still unknown to scientists. Many of these strange formations can only be found in quartzite caves, specifically when microorganisms affect their shape. These Tepuy are also very well insulated from the outside world, effectively creating an isolated organic petri dish for scientists to research and analyze. In fact, it was only in 2012 that Soro's team discovered a mineral named roseantonite, as well as bacteria and blind cavefish. These specific caves are believed to be incredibly old, perhaps tens of millions of years, and it is because of this unknown that Sauron and his team have already begun to plan future expeditions to learn more. Gorillas seen dismantling deadly poacher traps. We often forget how similar we are to our ape relatives. While we may hold ourselves in higher esteem compared to the other primates currently living on Earth, we actually share 99% of our DNA with chimpanzees, just one of the great apes. In fact, chimpanzees have been observed hunting for meat, showing body language, and even using tools. That had primate researchers going bananas. Staff at the Dian-Fossey Gorilla Fund Karasok Research Center in Rwanda saw gorillas destroying poacher traps. Working together, a pair of 4-year-olds and a teenage mountain gorilla cooperated in dismantling traps that are known to harm younglings. It was the first time that primate researchers were able to witness up close how gorillas go about destroying the poacher traps. We knew that gorillas do this, but all of the reported cases in the past were carried out by adult gorillas, mostly silverbacks, were the words of Gorilla Program Coordinator Veronica Vasilio. How they did it demonstrated an impressive cognitive skill. The discovery showed that even younger gorillas are able to identify and learn how to safely eliminate the threat of the snares. It came as more of a surprise, as it was only 2 days earlier that another infant gorilla had been slaughtered by a poacher trap. Even in grief, which gorillas have been observed practicing, the young primates were able to effectively eliminate the threat of the trap. The discovery was made back in 2012. It was on July 17th when staff and visitors were viewing some of the planet's last remaining mountain gorillas that they saw a gorilla approach a snare. As reported by a staff member, a silverback male then signaled a warning to the other gorillas. Amazingly, 2 young gorillas named Dekori and Ruima, and a blackback teen male named Tetero, maneuvered towards it. In tandem, they worked to dismantle the trap's noose by snapping the branch used to set it. Immediately, they repeated the process on another snare nearby. In photographs taken by the team, you can see the young gorillas looking at the broken sticks that had been used to hide the traps on the forest floor. It's against researchers' intentions to actively teach gorillas how to dismantle traps, as their intention is to maintain their naturally occurring behavior. Still, they are very pleased the primates are managing it themselves. Our battle to detect and destroy snares from the park is far from over, said Vasilio. Today, we can proudly confirm the gorillas are doing their part too. Footprints suggest Neanderthals climbed a volcano. Would you go rambling at the side of a volcano? Well, whatever your answer is, it seems our ancient ancestors might have done just that. In southern Italy, there are a famous set of footprints molded into the rock. Known as Ciampi del Diavolo or Devil's Trail, folklore said that the devil himself left dozens of tracks that still exist to this day. Now, a paper published in 2020 might have the real answer. It turns out that the 67 markings of feet, hands, and legs could actually be some of the oldest human footprints on record. The prints, some of which head up the mountain rather than down, were made during a soft cover of ashfall following an eruption around 350,000 years ago. Researchers believe that the marks were made by 5 different people. There is hope that further investigation could help us ascertain more details of the such as weight, gender, and height. What we do know is that they were not members of our own Homo sapiens species. There are some clues. The features of these footprints, specifically the broad width of the hind part of the foot along with the low rise of the arch, show striking similarities to remains found in the Cima de los Huesos pit of bones. The pit of bones remains have been labeled as everything from Homo heidelbergensis to Neanderthal to Denisovan, and even back to Neanderthal again. If these volcanic footprints were made by Neanderthals, we can assume it was a gang of adults, at least. However, scientists aren't ready to set anything in stone. We have decided to keep the attribution to a specific species still pending, lead researcher Adolfo Panarello told New Scientists in January 2020. But what do you make of these interesting discoveries? The world is filled with incredible researchers conducting fascinating studies. There are so many areas of research, not just here on Earth, but so much further beyond. So today, we will be taking a look at 3 recent discoveries out there in space. Mysterious heartbeat detected coming from cosmic gas cloud. A heartbeat is, of course, what keeps us all alive, animals and humans alike. Throughout the natural world, we show we are in tune with one another, with our surroundings and with ourselves through the rate of our heart. This brilliant phenomenon is now being used as an analogy, describing the synchronized pulses of a strange cloud of gas and a black hole way up in outer space. Is there some form of intrinsic connection between the two? What is causing this strange heartbeat to occur at all? Scientists have discovered that a cosmic gas cloud seems to have a heartbeat in which it is emitting a gamma ray that is yet to be explained. A statement released from the DESI National Research Center in Germany reported how an international team of astronomers made use of data obtained from the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico alongside measurements gathered from NASA's Fermi Gamma Ray Space Telescope. From this information, the research began to take off, having pinpointed whereabouts the gas cloud was. It can be found in the constellation Aquila, more colloquially known as the Eagle. This gas cloud is pulsing, or seemingly beating, to the same rhythm at the same time in complete synchronicity with a black hole. This black hole sits 100 light-years away, leading the researchers to believe there is some form of link or connection between the two celestial objects. A quasar is the brightest thing we know to exist within our universe. A microquasar is, as the name would suggest, a small version of this. Typically, they consist of a large black hole bringing the huge source of light as it engulfs stellar objects surrounding them. Forms one aspect of a microquasar system called SS433. Also part of SS433 is a star 30 times the mass of our Sun. This star and black hole orbit one another within the microquasar system, with the black hole gradually taking in matter from the huge star. This constant pulling of matter ends up with a disk forming around the black hole. Jian Li, the lead author of the study this international research team conducted, said that this material accumulates in an accretion disk before falling back into the black hole like water in the whirl above the drain of a bathtub. He goes on to explain that some of the matter does not fall down the so-called drain that is the black hole, but rather it is launched at a high speed as two narrow jets from one another in opposite directions, one above and one below the accretion disk. This jet is made up of particles moving at incredibly high speeds combined with strong magnetic fields. These jets cause X-rays and gamma rays to be emitted, both of which were then detected by the Fermi Space Telescope. Researchers have explained that the jets shoot out into space along an uneven path, spiraling instead of firing in a straight linear direction. This is thought to be a result of the accretion disk wobbling as it rotated. The microquasar sways over a 162-day period, mirroring the behavior found in the data gathered for the gamma ray that was leaving the gas cloud with a heartbeat. The research team suggested the cloud, named Fermi J 1913-0515, had a heartbeat as a result of the microquasar, and that this SS433 system may be what was powering the rhythmic beating. The one thing that is still baffling researchers is how there is an influence upon the microquasar from so far away. This puts a significant amount of space in between the black hole and the gas cloud. Researchers, although they have made this connection, are unclear how the two items have become intertwined in such a manner. Li described the link as an unambiguous connection via timing, though explains that despite the somewhat irrefutable relation, we still have no idea exactly why this link is present. More observations and research are needed to begin to decode this mystery, though for now this is just one more thing we do not quite understand about black holes. NASA is set up to explore a massive metal asteroid. We are all familiar with asteroids and are a valuable research material. NASA are beginning to investigate an astonishingly large asteroid reaching a staggering 140 miles in width. This is 16 Psyche, the huge asteroid that NASA is hoping to find the ins and outs of in 2022. Researchers have managed to research the light reflected from the asteroid, and the data suggests the asteroid could contain iron, nickel, or gold within the celestial object. It is no secret that asteroids can be immensely valuable. The only catch here is that by the time asteroids make it to Earth, the atmosphere tends to have destroyed a great deal of the material. This asteroid is estimated to clock in at a grand total of $10,000 quadrillion. For reference, according to Statista, in 2020, the global economy was worth $84.5 trillion. 16 Psyche was first observed in 1852, spied in the main asteroid belt lying between Mars and Jupiter. This places it 3 times further away from the Sun, and it takes 5 years here on Earth to complete one orbit of the Sun for 16 Psyche. Principal investigator from the Arizona State University, Lindy Elkins-Tanton, said that if it does end up being one part of the larger metal core, this would be the first discovery of its kind in our own solar system, telling us about the first generation of early cores. She speculates the above but clarifies after, but we don't really know, and we won't know anything for sure until we get there. Research into this asteroid could reveal what materials contributed to the formation of our planets. We have not got too much information on 16 Psyche as of yet. We are yet to have a mission reach the asteroid, though a NASA mission also named 16 Psyche is set to depart in August 2022, looking for more answers. Even more difficult, however, is conducting observations from here on Earth. Through our telescopes from home, 16 Psyche appears as nothing more than a fuzzy blip on the screen. Satellite telescopes, like the famous Hubble Space Telescope, are unable to capture a large amount of detail, unfortunately. We have been able to draw some limited conclusions thanks to the work of radar data scientists who have been able to figure out how the asteroid rotates and that it has a somewhat oval shape. When NASA sends their mission off, 16 Psyche will be observed for 21 months by an orbiter spanning 435 miles above the surface of the asteroid. Elkins Tanton said, "We don't know what we are going to find. I'm expecting us to be entirely surprised. Hopefully, as we begin to unravel more and more, we can understand the specifics behind the asteroids that keep us company within our solar system." 2018 VG18, there are plenty of mysteries within our universe. Things we haven't solved and questions we are waiting to answer. One that sits a bit closer to home is the search for a mysterious ninth planet. Planet 9 is a hypothetical planet that sits beyond Neptune. There are some objects in space thought to be in the space between Neptune and Planet 9. These are known as trans-Neptunian objects, and their unusual behavioral patterns are credited to, you guessed it, Planet 9, a planet that we are not even sure exists and have never found. 2018 VG18, also known as Far Out, is one of these trans-Neptunian objects. The name Far Out, as you would imagine, is because it is a decent distance away from the Sun, 15 billion kilometers in fact. This object broke records as it became the second most distant natural object that we have ever seen within our own solar system. Observations indicate that Far Out seems to sport a pink color, suggesting that the surface is rather ricey. Other characteristics include the low brightness and little on-sky motion. The Mauna Kea Observatory in Hawaii was where 2018 VG18 was first spotted in the autumn of 2018 by 3 astronomers, actively searching for trans-Neptunian objects that may have been influenced by Planet 9. The research into trans-Neptunian objects is incredibly exciting. It is entirely possible that Planet 9 does not exist at all nonetheless. With each TNO found, it becomes more likely that we will stumble across the object that will lead us to the hidden. What do you make of these major scientific discoveries that have expanded what we know about our planet and beyond? As technology and human innovation evolve, scientists and archaeologists discover more and more about the world around us. So today we'll be taking a look at interesting discoveries from around the world. A woman's skull was found in Antarctica in 1985. How does an ancient person get to Antarctica from Chile? This question is one of many invoked by a fairly recent Antarctic discovery. In 1985, a woman's skull was found, dating back at least 175 years. The skull not only represents the oldest known human remains discovered in Antarctica, but also hints at the continent's past. Discovered on Yamana Beach at Cape Shiref in Antarctica's southern Shetland Islands, this skull is thought to have belonged to an indigenous Chilean girl in her early 20s. Not much else is known about the skull or what a woman from Chile would have been doing in Antarctica in the first place, but it is significant because similar bones could be contested in the future. As countries scramble to potentially lay claim to Antarctica, similar discoveries could mean the difference between a founded claim and an unfounded one. So why does this discovery matter? In 1998, the Antarctic Treaty was established. This agreement declared that Antarctica was a natural reserve devoted to peace and science and thus could not be claimed by any country as a territory. According to Klaus Dodds, professor of geopolitics at Royal Holloway University of London, environmental protection is one of the key headlines of the treaty. However, if Chile can demonstrate that the woman's skull predates any evidence of other countries' claims in Antarctica, it might gain control and ownership of the continent. After all, as we mentioned earlier, the skull comprises the oldest known human remains discovered on the frozen continent. Archaeology has always been important in the world of international politics, but with the Antarctic Treaty expiring around 2048, archaeological evidence to support overlapping claims will be more important than ever. Although archaeological discoveries like this woman's skull carry no legal weight, They can challenge the timeline of the continent's history as well as strengthen the nation's hand in any negotiations. The mysterious holes of Peru, Indiana, Peru. There is a strip of holes, an estimated 5,000 to 6,000 of them, described as man-sized, forming the Band of Holes or Monte Sirpi, Serpent Mountain in Spanish. Whilst there has been a great deal of speculation into the purpose and creation of these holes, not much is definitively known. Some have suggested they were storage pits, built within the Inca Empire, whilst others have theorized they were graves or places to take defense in battle. The band covers a north to south direction, traveling for 1.5 kilometers. These holes range from 50 to 100 centimeters deep and are each around 1 meter in diameter, a sizing often described as man-sized. Modern researchers have formed many speculations. In 1933, Robert Shippey of National Geographic published a photograph of the area from above. This caught the eye of many, drawing the holes of Peru somewhat into the spotlight. In 1953, Victor Wolfgang von Hagen took over the narration in his writing entitled The Royal Road of the Inca. He called the holes pre-Inca graves, describing the shaking linework to be the curves of a serpent, hence the secondary name Monte Sirp. On the other hand, the 1984 book The Inca Road System, written by archaeologist John Hislop, describes them as storage possibilities, whilst acknowledging that this is merely speculation. Still, the storage hypothesis, if accurate, would make the Band of Holes one of the Inca Empire's largest storage areas. A more modern suggestion, made in 2015, suggests that the holes could be a form of measurement to record gifts, produce, and inventory, particularly those presented as a tribute. These holes could have formed one part of a process that informed official documents. As this idea was formed, archaeologists from UCLA were able to visit the site and capture photographs of the area through the use of a drone. We may never completely determine what these mysterious holes are for, though the more modern explanations are seemingly shifting away from the macabre suggestion of graves. Earth has a 27.5 million-year heartbeat, but we don't know what causes it. Mother Earth is a mysterious force to be reckoned with. As much as we love to honor ourselves as a great species, we have only existed for a tiny portion of the Earth's current lifespan. There is a reason why ancient pagan societies all over the classical world viewed our beloved planet as and resources we can use for our survival and leisure. Whereas in the past our ancestors revered the elements and the power they had over them in fear and fascination, we have taken a stance of control. We like to believe we are in power, but the earth, nature, and all chemicals and creatures have existed before we even evolved. Nature has a mind of its own. It does its own thing and cares little for humans. And as it turns out, the earth has a heartbeat and a pulse which has existed for about 260 million years. Currently, there is a lack of explanation as to why this is, but a research team from the University of New York has been carrying out the study with Michael Rapino, a geologist, as the team's leader. This heartbeat is not the kind we are accustomed to. Rather, it is a title given to recurring clusters of phenomena and events. Events such as mass extinction, where major life forms on Earth perish. Past mass extinctions have occurred simultaneously with the Earth's pulse. Generally, whenever there is one major catastrophe happening, it is followed by other minor disasters, volcanic eruptions, fluctuating sea levels, magma spewing from the Earth's crust, among other things. The study concluded that this heartbeat and pulse has repeated various times in a cycle during the past 260 million years, but there is no scientific reason as to why that is. Scientists are baffled by the cycle's existence. The knowledge that our planet, which provides for us, also harshly punishes us and takes away what she has given is frightful to be sure, but there is no need to worry at the moment as the next predicted pulse is not supposed to occur for another 20 million years. In the last 260 million years, the dinosaurs roamed the Earth, became extinct, the original continent of Pangaea split into 7 and humans evolved into the civilizations we are today, and all through that time natural disasters have hit harshly and cruelly, often all at once. Every 27.5 million years, the heartbeat repeats and disastrous consequences repeat in its wake. Rampino addressed the fact that many geologists believe these events are simply random by assuring them that their study found a continuous cycle which occurs, historically at the same time too concise to be random. These geologic events are correlated and not random, says Rampino. A never-before-seen type of signal has been detected in the human brain. Researchers have uncovered a previously unknown type of cell signaling that takes place in the human brain. This discovery is exciting because it shows that our brain may be a more powerful unit of measurement than we previously realized. Scientists from Greek and German labs disclosed a process in which all fresh gradual signs were formed independently in the brain's outer cortical cells earlier this year. Individual neurons may be able to conduct logical processes in new ways as a result of this. Neurologists can detect that distinct cells in the cortex are just normal sodium ions. They do this by evaluating the electrical pulse of pieces of tissue dissected during surgery in epilepsy patients and studying their form with a fluorescence microscope. Calcium-mediated dendritic stimulation, or CPAP, was triggered by this mix of positively charged ions, resulting in a wave of extraordinary voltage. Computers are frequently likened to the brain, particularly the human brain. The parallel has its limitations, yet at some levels the task is accomplished similarly. Both use the power of voltage to execute numerous activities. Computers are made out of a basic flow of electrons passing through crossings known as transistors. Waves enter and exit that share charged particles like sodium, chloride, and potassium. Our nervous system sends out impulses through dendrites. If the action potential is significant enough, it can be transmitted to neighboring neurons, which can either block or transmit the signal. Without a certainty, this is no more complicated than the human central nervous system's dense wrinkled outer layer, the cortex of the brain. The deeper layers 2 and 3 are especially thick and densely packed with branches that execute higher-level sensory, cognitive, and motor control activities. The tissues of these layers were studied by linking cell lines to an instrument known as somatic dendrite patch clamp, which sent action potentials up and down each neuron while capturing signals. They double-checked the outcomes with a modest number of brain tumor specimens to be sure they were not exclusive to epilepsy patients. Discovered the signal even after administering a sodium channel inhibitor to the cell's tetrodotoxin. Only when the calcium was blocked did everything become silent. Finding calcium-mediated action potentials is intriguing enough. Assessing the behavior of this vulnerable new type of transmission in the cortex, however, yields an unexpected result. But what do you make of these recent findings? Although the latest sitcoms or blockbuster films might seem fascinating and full of twists and turns, often some of the most amazing revelations can be found right here in the real world. Scientists, historians, and archaeologists spend their lives uncovering truly incredible things about the world in which we live, some of which might seem almost unbelievable. So today, we will be looking at 3 interesting discoveries and how they impacted our understanding of the world. Scientists grew chickens with dinosaur legs to prove how evolution works. Sometimes science experiments can border on the downright strange, as was certainly the case with a series of experiments carried out by scientists in Chile seeking to understand elements of the evolutionary process that gave us none other than the very birds that fill our skies today. Many people believe that when the mysterious asteroid that caused the mass extinction of the dinosaurs landed on Earth, all the dinosaurs disappeared for good. However, we now know that some of these prehistoric creatures survived and evolved into birds. In an attempt to demonstrate the path that such an impressive leap could have taken, researchers genetically modified chickens so that they developed strange tubular fibulas on their legs. These bones were commonly found in such avian dino as the Archaeopteryx, who had a second tibial bone next to the hollow fibula. Evolutionary researchers can follow the path of these 2 bones through the intervening millennium. As the fibula shortened, thinned, and developed more splinter-like ends, while the tibia sharpened and shortened so much that it no longer reached the ankle. Although modern bird embryos still show early signs of developing proportionately longer tibular fibula, these bones ultimately end up with the short, thin, splinter-like bones that are typical of birds today. So, why would researchers be interested in giving chickens these dinosaur legs? Essentially, the team hoped to be able to better understand what biological processes drove the change from dinosaur legs to modern bird legs throughout the course of evolution. Because bird embryos possess legs that still resemble those of their ancient dino ancestors, researchers were able to isolate and subsequently inhibit the IHH gene, which allowed the experimental chickens to continue to develop the longer legs promised in their embryos. And what they observed as the legs continued to grow was interesting. Normally, when bones grow, their shafts reach full size first and the ends continue to develop and lengthen. However, the fibula of bottom birds and chickens stops at the ends first, meaning that something, likely the calcaneal bone, at the distal end of the fibula is actively preventing it from reaching dinosaur-like lengths. Turning off the IHH gene removed this blockage, allowing the ends of the bone to continue to grow in order to reach Archaeopteryx lengths. Although these Frankenstein dinosaur chickens were not viable and were not able to hatch, the seemingly strange experiment succeeded in its goal of understanding the biological processes that fueled the evolutionary changes that shortened the legs of birds over time. Alexander Vargas, a member of the research team, explained the goal of the project as focused on single traits to test specific hypotheses. Not only do we know a great deal about bird development, but also about the dinosaur-bird transition, which is well documented by the fossil record. This leads naturally to hypotheses on the evolution of development that can be explored in the lab. With separate experiments creating chickens with such dinosaur, it may only be a matter of time before science is able to unravel evolution so much that they are left with tiny chicken-like dinosaurs. Medieval Italian man replaced his amputated hand with a knife. Prosthetics are one element of life that has undoubtedly benefited from improvements in technology through the years. In fact, archaeologists recently uncovered remains that appear to be a man who replaced his amputated hand with nothing other than a knife. The man was found buried in a northern Italian Longobird necropolis that seems to date back between the 6th and 8th centuries CE, and contains hundreds of fascinating human and animal skeletons. Upon initial study of the remains, the grave in question appears to be an older man, especially for the time, who was between 40 and 50 years old. His arm had been amputated at the forearm by blunt force trauma, but researchers were unable to determine whether this amputation was intentional or was the result of an accident or battle wound, especially considering the warrior tendencies of the Longobard people. Regardless, such an amputation, when combined with the presence of what was believed to be a knife as a prosthesis, is an incredibly rare archaeological find, and the team of archaeologists promptly began by intensive study of the circumstances of the grave and the man within, releasing their findings in a report published in the Journal of Anthropological Sciences. The main focus of the study was to determine whether or not the knife, which was found placed across the man's chest with the butt aligned with the body, was found. The end of his amputated wrist was truly being used as a prosthetic device, and compelling evidence points to the fact that it was. For starters, the remains of a buckle and decomposed leather at the amputation site suggests that the knife was originally attached to the arm. The end of the amputated arm also displayed changes such as the development of a callus and bone spur, which are consistent with the types of pressure that would have been applied with a prosthesis. His body also portrayed telltale signs of extended prosthetic wear, such as extensive degradation of the teeth on the right side and an unnatural C-shaped bone ridge on the shoulder, both of which likely would have developed as a result of years of tightening leather straps using his teeth and opposite arm. Given the warrior nature of the society in which the man lived, it seems only natural that he would have chosen to strap a knife to the place where his hand would have been. But due to the presence of advanced bone healing at the amputation site, archaeologists know that he lived for many years after his injury, which can tell us a lot about the type of people the ancient Langebards were. According to the paper, this man is fascinating because he shows a remarkable survival after a forelimb amputation during the pre-antibiotic era. Not only did he adjust very well to his condition, but he also did so with the use of a culturally derived device. Along with considerable community support, the survival of this Langbard male testifies to community care, family compassion, and a high value given to human life. Studies like this one of ordinary men in a community who might have lived under extraordinary circumstances can tell researchers much about the inner workings of their society and are valuable sources of information about the past. Researchers find unsafe levels of industrial chemicals in drinking water of 6 million Americans. When it comes to your drinking water, many people acknowledge that it is likely not as pristine as they would like to believe, but would prefer not to think about what might be lurking within the pipes that stretch below their cities. However, for over 6 million Americans, what was hiding undetected in their regular drinking water was unsafe levels of toxic industrial chemicals. This shocking revelation was uncovered by a team of researchers from Harvard University who examined over 36,000 samples of drinking water and evaluated the concentrations of 6 types of polyfluoroalkyl and perfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAs, within each sample, and what they found was extremely concerning. They reported that, out of 4,864 water supplies, 194 had evident contamination by the chemicals, with 66 of these displaying levels above the Environmental Protection Agency's recommended safety thresholds. Typically, PFAs are used in products that require a fluoropolymer coating or are made to resist heat, oil-based stains, or water. These products are incredibly far-reaching and include clothing, non-stick surfaces, food packaging, furniture, electrical insulation, and many more. The problem with these types of chemicals is that, once released into the environment, whether by accident or as a waste product, they never break down and have been linked to cancers, hormone issues, and many other serious health conditions. Because the use of these chemicals is so widespread, they are likely lurking everywhere across the environment in different quantities, and although they are recognized as a harmful contaminant by the Environmental Protection Agency, they are not regulated by the federal government. The results of this study bring the issue of PFAS contamination into a new light, as in total, the water supplies that were compromised served over 6 million Americans, and now officials must wrestle with the matter of what to do in the face of such dangerous levels of contamination, as well as how to prevent the chemicals from reaching the waterways in the first place. As the bureaucracy in charge of making these regulatory laws reviews the current systems, in the hopes of finding a way to prevent future damage, the immediate action must be taken by the smaller, more localized governments who have installed high-powered filters to main water lines, dispersed bottled drinking water, and endorsed individual carbon filters for use in private homes. This study is simply the latest in a long line that serves to demonstrate just how much more ubiquitous chemicals are in our lives than previously thought, and how much more action likely needs to be taken to ensure drinking water safety. But what do you make of these interesting discoveries? Our world is a large and complex place, which makes it almost understandable why sometimes people seem to get lost. So today, we'll be taking a look at 3 mysterious disappearances. Hikers find mystery skeleton on remote mountain in California. Back in 2019, 2 hikers stumbled across a rather unpleasant discovery that would soon change the tone of their hiking trip. Hikers Brandon Fallon and Tyler Hoffa were hiking across the Sierra Nevada mountain. The 14,000-foot hike is a tourist attraction bringing in experienced adventurers from throughout America. Though when the pair deviated from their route, about 3 hours away from the peak, they found what appeared to be a human skull between boulders, just off of the trail. Fallon states, "My first thought was maybe it was a prop or something like you see in a science class. Unfortunately, a closer inspection revealed other bones throughout the clearing, and beneath some boulders, an almost entirely undamaged human skeleton, equipped with what were once leather shoes and a belt. The sun exposure had resulted in a bleaching effect, making the skull appear incredibly white after what could have been years outside. The pair's first choice of action would have been staying beside the remains, not touching them and phoning the appropriate authorities. However, being 12 miles into the next day of their trek and 3 hours from the mountain summit, there was no phone service to make the call. Unsure as to the appropriate actions, the pair kept a record of what they had seen, photographing the bones, the skeleton, and only touching 1 foot to capture a clearer photo. Once they made it to the top of their journey, Fallon and Hoffa were able to call 911 and fill them in on the bizarre turn of events. Just days later, the California Highway Patrol helicopters managed to successfully track down and remove the skeletal remains. The investigators from the Inyo County Sheriff's Office aimed to identify who this missing hiker was, what exactly prevented them from getting any further than this spot in what has been dubbed the bowl, and how long they had been there for. The bowl refers to the last bit of the hike that leads to the top of Mount Williamson. Tinley Trun, an employee at Elevation Sierra Adventure Essentials, completed the hike 2 years prior to this discovery. He explained that the hikers must hop between sharp boulders, that dropping your phone means making peace with it being gone forever, and twisting your ankle means accepting a bitter, painful defeat or, as he said, you're done for. He said all of this is truer if the hiker took a less direct, more remote path, where it is even less likely you could be found or helped. The next stage in this research involved an analysis of the remains. A professor emerita of anthropology at the University of California, Santa Cruz explained that the timeline for a body to decay to a skeleton is not linear. This is dependent on a number of factors, perhaps most significantly the temperature of the area and the insects in the area. For example, in a warm climate with specific flies, a body could have decayed to a skeleton within just 6 months, whereas a cold environment would preserve the body for longer. Dr. Galloway and other investigators expressed the want for soft tissue to be present as this, within just a few months, could answer questions about the timeline of the death. Using only bones, however, makes figuring out more specific years a much more difficult process. Other clues could lie within the shoes and belt as well as the physical remains. Tissue is not present on the body. Following this, DNA testing from hair, ear bones or teeth can be correlated to see if there is a match on any existing missing persons reports. So far, no missing persons reports have matched up with the location of the skeleton. The sheriff's office spokeswoman said there was no evidence of foul play. Fallon and Hoffer reported a dent in the skull, appearing fractured, and the position of the body indicated as it may have been laid out as if it were buried. They did, however, admit their lack of forensic knowledge. The sheriff's office has denied all of the above, labeling Fallon and Hoffer's claims as inaccurate. Despite all the speculation, there are no concrete answers surrounding this mystery skeleton. The hiking trip gone amiss is sure to stick with these young hikers for decades to come. Disappearance of Claudia Lawrence. Claudia Lawrence was born and raised in North Yorkshire and worked as a chef for the University of York. Lawrence has not been seen since Wednesday, the 18th of March, 2009, and her disappearance remains a mystery. On that fateful Wednesday, Lawrence left work at 2:30 p.m. and began walking home. On the walk, she was spotted by a friend who offered her a lift, and at approximately 2:50 p.m., she was seen posting a letter nearby and then returned home at roughly 3:05 p.m. At around 8 p.m., she texted a friend and accepted a phone call from her mother in which she was described as sounding cheerful and relaxed. When Lawrence failed to turn up for work the next morning, her manager attempted to call her mobile phone but did not receive an answer. At the same time, evidence shows Lawrence's phone was turned on, only to be switched off deliberately at 12:08 p.m. that same day. Lawrence was due to meet her friend Susie Cooper that evening, but did not turn up. Cooper thought the behavior was out of Lawrence's character and so contacted Lawrence's father, who broke into her flat. The only items that were missing from Lawrence's home were her rucksack, her mobile phone, and her work uniform. This suggested that Lawrence had left for work that morning. The group decided to contact the police and a missing persons investigation began. An appeal was released for any further information on Lawrence's last sightings and led to 2 reported potential sightings of Lawrence. The first report came from a cyclist who saw a woman who resembled Lawrence with a man at 5:35 a.m. on the 19th at Melrose Gate on Lawrence's commute to work. The second sighting was 30 minutes after this, when a commuter noticed a couple who looked like they were arguing outside the University of York, Lawrence's place of work. Additionally, police covered CCTV footage of a suspicious-looking man at the back of Lawrence's house on the evening of the 18th and the early morning of the 19th. The man in the CCTV footage was described as wearing a black hoodie, just as the males in the reported sightings had been. Just 5 weeks into the investigation, police formally classified the case as a suspected murder, despite over 1,000 statements and searches taking place in the investigation. This male figure has never been unmasked. In 2013, the North Yorkshire Police set up a new unit specifically to look into kidnaps and stalled cases. Lawrence's case fell into the latter category. Using new and advanced techniques, the police were able to find additional fingerprints and a man's DNA on a cigarette end in Lawrence's car. The new discovery led to the arrests of 6 men, however, none were charged. With no conclusion to the case, the 2 main theories of what happened to Lawrence are that she absconded from the UK or she was abducted and killed. The first theory, that Lawrence absconded, is based on the knowledge that Lawrence had visited Cyprus on 5 occasions before her disappearance. The last text message on her phone had come from a male friend in Cyprus. This had led some to conclude that Lawrence chose to disappear of her own accord to the Mediterranean islands. However, when the police extended the search for Lawrence to Cyprus, no further information of her whereabouts was revealed. The second and dominant theory is that Lawrence was abducted and killed. On a Crime Watch program focused on her disappearance, Detective Superintendent Ray Galloway revealed that some of Lawrence's relationships had an element of complexity and mystery to them that were not known to her family or friends. Despite her family and friends publicly refuting the claims, some began to suspect that Lawrence had fallen victim to foul play from one of her scorned lovers. This is supported by the fact that police interviewed every male regular of One York pub as to whether they had a romantic relationship with Lawrence. Others argue that it was convicted woman killer Christopher Hallowell who is responsible for Lawrence's abduction. Hallowell abducted and killed his second known victim exactly 2 years after Lawrence's psychological research has shown that killers are triggered often by dates. So Lawrence's disappearance would fit into his offending pattern, and there is one reported sighting of Lawrence and Hallowell together. Lawrence's own mother believes Hallowell is responsible for her daughter's disappearance. She has publicly criticized the police for not spending more money and time investigating whether Hallowell was responsible for the crime. Over 10 years later, what happened to Lawrence remains unanswered. The disappearance of the Beaumont children. On January 26, 1966, 9-year-old Jane Beaumont, 7-year-old Anna Beaumont, and 4-year-old Grant Beaumont got on a bus to go to Glenelg Beach from their home in Adelaide. The 3 children never returned home. This is still one of Australia's greatest mysteries to date. Their mother, Nancy, began to worry when the children didn't return by 1 p.m. And that worry grew stronger as buses returned from the beach without her children. Their father, Jim, had been away on a business trip. He returned home early that afternoon to surprise his family, but when he returned to the news of his missing children, he searched the whole area and finally went to the police. An elderly couple told the police they saw the children playing with a man on the beach. They described him as tall, blonde, and thin and said he may have been in his 30s. Jane was known as a shy girl who was very protective of her siblings. She would play with this man shocked everyone, leading police to believe the children must have met the man before that day. Nancy remembered Arna telling her before that Jane had a boyfriend at the beach, but she didn't take it seriously at the time. Other witnesses reported that this man had been watching the children before he started playing with them. Later, he went around asking if anyone had seen the children's missing money. Some later saw the children leaving the beach with this man. Police believe he may have taken their money so he could offer them help later. He could have offered to take them home so they would see him as a sort of hero and they would trust him. Not long after they left the beach, the children at a local cake shop buying pastries and a meat pie. Their parents didn't believe the children would want to buy a meat pie because they would rather buy sweets. This also cost more money than their mother gave them that morning. It was assumed that the man they left with gave them the money and they got the meat pie for him. Descriptions of the children were released to the public and the police received more information and reported sightings than they could deal with. All the information led them to believe the children had been kidnapped, they were hiding, or they had been in some sort of accident and perhaps drowned to death. Police searched the beach and storm drains nearby and they drained the harbor to investigate it better. Nothing was ever discovered, however, and they had no new evidence to work with. That November, a Dutch clairvoyant named Gerard Coisse went to Adelaide after he claimed he had a vision of where the children were buried. Everyone, including Jim and Nancy, were eager about his arrival and believed he had the answers they were looking for. He led search teams to an abandoned warehouse, but nothing was found there. The case was never closed, but what really happened that day is still a mystery. After the disappearance of the Beaumont children, parents everywhere grew more cautious about letting their children go out alone. It became more and more clear that danger could be anywhere. But what do you make of these mysteries and disappearances? A NASA spacecraft has detected a loud scream in space. The ominous noise was detected by Voyager 1, a space probe that is currently over 14.1 billion miles away from Earth and is moving at around 38,000 miles per hour. In fact, just recently scientists announced that Voyager 1 has passed through our solar system's boundary, and this is where the noise was detected. The probe was launched over 44 years ago, and now it's flying through the interstellar medium, which NASA has said is beyond our sun's influence. This is a big deal, as it's the first time that a human-made object has been beyond this point in space. The screen that was detected is helping scientists to analyze this area of space, something that we know very little about. Scientists, though, have a good idea of what's causing this noise, going on to explain that the noise is coming from the universe that's beyond our solar system, and that the most likely culprit is interstellar gas or plasma waves. Stella Oker, a Cornell doctoral student in astronomy, said the following: "It's very faint and monotone because it's in a narrow frequency bandwidth. We're detecting the faint present hum of interstellar gas." As mentioned, this aerospace is an entirely new region for scientists, but they did say that there seems to be more going on here than they first theorized. As of right now, though, the team are not 100% sure what's causing this noise, but have said that it may have been caused by thermally excited plasma oscillations. Plasma oscillation is the theorized motion of electrons or ions in a plasma. This gives scientists a great opportunity to observe this region of space, with one of the team members saying that for the first time we can see how this air of the universe interacts with the edge of our solar system. Scientists said that once the probe passed through this region of space, it started to detect the noises. Senior author James Cordes said the following: "The interstellar medium is like a quiet or gentle rain. In the case of a solar outburst, it's like detecting a lightning burst in a thunderstorm, and then it goes back to a gentle rain." The researchers have said that they're still in contact with Voyager 1, even though it's 14 billion miles away from Earth, and have said that they're constantly getting updates, with it sending around 160 bits every second. This data is helping us to understand a regional space that humans have never been to, and hope that it may reveal some of the universe's secrets beyond this region. Shami Chachaji, a scientist at Cornell University, said the following: "We've never had a chance to evaluate it. Now we know we don't need a fortuitous event related to the sun to measure interstellar plasma. Regardless of what the sun is doing, Voyager is sending back detail. The craft is saying, here's the density I'm swimming through right now. Voyager is quite distant and will be doing this continuously. Advancements in quantum mechanical theories and new technologies that allow us to better perceive our universe and understand the answers to questions we never believed possible to answer seem to be developing every single day. As scientists work to provide us with new insights from revelations to our universe that break the boundaries of what we thought was possible. These findings will often spawn new theories that will cause even the most stoic of people the need to sit back and collect their thoughts. One interesting theory that's been put forward by scientists is that we may exist inside of a black hole. The Big Bang has been a scientific discovery that has led to countless physicists and research scientists asking questions. Scientists pointed their sensitive measuring devices towards the sky and picked up on the large quantities of background radiation of the universe. That helped them to paint an enlightening picture as to the original moments in time that our universe began. More questions began popping into their heads than could be answered. The most significant questions seemed to be the most recursive. If the Big Bang created the universe, then what created the Big Bang? This was a question that would go unanswered for many decades, and many others attempted to abandon the thought process altogether. How can we see what happened before anything ever even happened? This thought would soon change after mathematicians would make a strange comparison between the Big Bang and an unlikely celestial body that was still regarded as nothing more than a theory. Now the theory behind black holes was more than just shrouded in mystery. And it was not until a man by the recognizable name of Albert Einstein helped humanity to realize that space and time are interwoven and connected in something we refer to as the fabric of space-time. Interestingly, the mathematical theory of mass then being able to stretch and distort this fabric, similar to that of a rock resting on a cloth, led to an interesting idea. It was in the math that scientists believed that if the mass of an object grew to a certain size, this would cause the fabric of space-time to stretch, and the mass, although finite, to be compressed into a zero-dimensional point with no volume, creating a singularity, or as we commonly refer to as a black hole, with a gravitational force so great the light itself could not escape it. Of course, initially, many scientists believed that an infinite destiny was impossible, and that such an occurrence in the math was an obvious flaw. That were to prove the illegitimacy of general relativity and that black holes could not possibly exist. Of course, this would come to change in time as better technology has allowed us to observe the effects of gravitational distortion and the large supermassive black hole located at the center of our galaxy. But an interesting comparison was made between the nature of black holes and the nature of the Big Bang. It became obvious to quantum physicists that the mouse completely added up, that the Big Bang appeared to be the inverse perspective of the black hole, leading many physicists to believe that the creation of our universe very well could have been the creation of a black hole, and that existence and the stretching of spacetime as we know it in reference to the expansion of our universe could merely be us existing inside of a singularity. Could it be possible then that we're merely a product of an outside aging universe, and that the original creation of our universe was from that event? Further evidence is provided when plotting out the fourth dimension graphing of the timeline of our universe that shows a growing expanse from a singularity stretching out, similar to an infinite density could stretch the fabric of spacetime, leading many more scientists to find this theory to be a legitimate answer to the question of the Big Bang. So what do you make of these interesting discoveries? The world out there is so much bigger than we think. Our horizons are so limited and our research into space is only just beginning. We are continuously uncovering more features that we do not know about, from unusual stars to topsy-turvy planets. So today we will be taking a look at 3 interesting astronomical discoveries. Astronomers discover spider stars that tear apart other stars. There are plenty of different kinds of stars out there. From the complex life cycle each star goes through to the different ways we categorize them, the pretty twinkly stars above us have a lot more to them than it seems. However, a team of researchers from across the globe seem to have uncovered what is being described as a spider star, and it is not exactly friendly. These stars are highly energetic. Their pulses and patterns of activity in the sky are regular, meaning they are distinctive in observations, making them stand out and catch the eyes and attention of astronomers worldwide. Stars have a complex life cycle, so let's give it a quick recap. After a supernova, a supergiant star collapses in on itself, leaving behind either a neutron star or a white dwarf. These are both incredibly dense leftovers. Now, the interesting part is that when there is a high enough amount of electromagnetic radiation, the star can spin at a rapid pace, resulting in a pulsar. Pulsars have strong magnetic fields and regularly release radiation with each pulse that takes place. The regular burst that comes from these pulsars are quite convenient for our eagle-eyed astronomers. The researchers can keep an eye on these unusual stars by observing the cosmic ray outbursts released every time the star rotates. The regularity makes for even predictable data, so much so that some have suggested making some form of celestial GPS based off of these pulsars. Some pulsars are even more unique. The best, or rather strangest, of these stars have a rotation every 30 milliseconds or less. Pulsars that rotate with such a rapid speed are called spider stars. Spider stars do not sound overly cute or pretty, and they seem to live up to their name. These spider stars are usually found in binary systems, meaning systems where 2 stars are bound together through gravity and orbit one another. When one of these stars is a spider-style pulsar star, unfortunately for that star's buddy, the companion star is typically broken down by the activity of the pulsar. The proximity to one another means the spider star can easily tear apart its partner in their binary system. A complete destruction of its partner earned the spider stars the violent nickname Black Widow stars, a nod to the female spiders who eat their male partner after having mated. Another subcategory of spider stars is the red bank, which eclipse signals when the companion star in the binary signal moves in between the pulsar and the Earth. From an international astronomy team describing the discovery of 8 binary millisecond pulsars. The team managed to spot these stars using the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. There are 8 pulsars that have been uncovered. 3 of these stars are black widows, 1 is a redback, and 1 pulsar cannot be classified at all, falling in between the 2 known subcategories. Could this middle-sized pulsar be an indicator of something completely different that we are missing? Could we be right on the edge of discovering something new altogether? Only more research will tell us. One of the oldest stars in the galaxy has a planet. Our universe took a lot of evolving and developing to get where it is today, so it is somewhat strange when we find aspects that we know are not that old existing in the early days of the universe. In the early universe, we simply did not have all the scientific elements that we have today. The elements needed to form rocky planets did not exist. Yet despite this, astronomers have found right here in the Milky Way galaxy a rocky planet dating back further than you would expect. A little bit of an astronomical timeline is needed here to form this picture. The Big Bang took place, resulting in an abundance of the light elements in the universe, hydrogen, helium, and a smaller amount of lithium. About 200 million years following the Big Bang, stars began to form, and along with them, heavier elements developed in the cores of stars, including carbon, oxygen, and iron. Now, for rocky planets to form, we need those materials from the cores of stars, so we should not be able to find rocky planets in the early days of the universe. These planets should, instead, be gaseous like Jupiter. There is one planet that is being looked at in this study. It has been found orbiting TOI 561, a star that is an approximate 10 billion years old and is one of the oldest in our galaxy. This planet was found through the Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite and then observed using the Keck telescope. This star is part of the galactic thick disk, an area of the galaxy made almost exclusively out of ancient stars, giving it a unique chemical composition. The stars in the so-called thick disk are much less metallic than in the thin disk, adding even more surprise to the discovery that it is indeed a rocky planet orbiting the star. The planet named TOI 561b was first found when it moved in front of the star. This process stopped the shine of the star for a moment, meaning the light dipped and Tess could see the planet lurking just in front of the star. After this, the next step was to gather information on the planet. Not only is it rocky, but it has a mass 3 times that of the Earth's, adding more evidence to the belief that this is a rocky planet, not a gaseous one. But the other 2 are confirmed to be gaseous, not rocky. It might take some time to continue this research and unravel this mystery, though it appears that something is different than how we currently understand it, whether that is the timeline of our universe, the composition of this planet, or the elements needed to form. Mysterious wobble is moving Mars poles around. Good few of us have a strange neighbor we keep an eye out for. Planet Earth has a rather quirky neighbor too. Mars, the red planet 1 door down from us, has been wobbling as it spins, unusual behavior to say the least, according to research published in 2020 in the journal Geophysical Research Papers, though the reason why has left scientists baffled. As Mars has been waving around and dancing off its course, the poles of the planet have been moving off from the axis of rotation. The study quoted that the poles moved about 4 inches away from the axis of rotation over a 200-day period. This odd waving around does have a name, the Chandler wobble. Strangely enough, astronomers have seen this phenomenon before, here on Earth. While we did not know that this straying away from the central point is possible, we were yet to observe it elsewhere, and we are still no closer to finding a definitive answer as to why this peculiar activity takes place. The Chandler wobble was named after Seth Carlo Chandler, the man who was responsible for uncovering this unusual event more than 100 years ago. Science writer Jack Lee wrote at AOS that the wobbling takes place when planets are not perfectly spherical. It is also worth noting that the wobble of Earth is a much more significant size than Mars, with our wobble straying 30 feet from the axis of rotation, with the wobble pattern looping every 433 days. It's not too big of a deal for us humans when Earth has a wobbly rotation. This has a small, insignificant impact upon planet Earth, but does not appear to be damaging or harmful in the slightest. But we still know very little about it. Scientific calculations seem to indicate that the wobble will naturally fade away eventually. A 2021 study has suggested that the Chandler wobble on Earth is being prolonged and continuing with such momentum because of changes in the pressure of the atmosphere and in our oceans. A similar pattern of logic has then been applied to Mars. Thanks to data collected by the Mars Odyssey, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, and the Mars Global Surveyor, we have 18 years of information and monitoring of Mars available. The team has also suggested that a natural correction of the planet's poles could happen, like we think it will for Earth eventually. Though for now, the wobble seems to be persistent and fairly set in stone. Mars is ocean-free, though there is a real chance that the atmospheric pressure alone could be enough to make the red planet a little all over the place. It will take many more observations, plenty more theories, and maybe even for the wobbles to eventually correct themselves until we get to the bottom of this unusual planetary phenomenon. There is so much out there for us to discover and delve into, from the stars we can see as we glance up above, to the unusual happenings within our very own solar system. What will more research uncover? But what do you make of these interesting discoveries? If there is one thing that we know for sure about space, it is that we know hardly anything at all. For every 10 discoveries made, there are likely thousands of equally fascinating discoveries that remain hidden. And yet, we are constantly uncovering amazing new things every single day. So today, we will be looking at 3 interesting discoveries and what they can tell us about the cosmos that stretches infinitely beyond our atmosphere. Powerful jets found shooting from an incredibly magnetic neutron star. One of the most interesting things about space is that most of the knowledge that we have are simply theories and hypotheses based on the data that we have gathered so far. This means that every now and then, scientists and astronomers are forced to reconsider previously held knowledge and ideas in the face of contradictory new evidence. In one such instance, researchers were dumbfounded when they observed something the likes of which had never been seen before. A massive beam moving almost as fast as the speed of light was seen shooting out from an extremely powerful neutron star boasting an incredibly strong magnetic field that is over 10 trillion times stronger than our sun's. Neutron stars are an interesting phenomenon and are what is left over when a massive star runs out of fuel. As the star begins to collapse, their core creates a neutron, which essentially stops the final stages of the collapse, which would eventually lead to the creation of a black hole and leaves behind a neutron star instead. These stars boast an incredibly large density, resulting in powerful gravitational pulls almost as strong as black holes. So when the Carl G. Jansky Very Large Array Radio Telescope captured the mystifying burst from the exceptionally powerful neutron star named Swift J0243666124, astronomers were mystified. Although jets are not unheard of with neutron stars, previous theories claimed that neutron stars with strong magnetic fields would be unable to produce a jet like the one observed with the Jansky telescope. This means that current ideas surrounding the capabilities of neutron stars need to be reconsidered and reworked. As any good scientist would do, the team made sure to closely monitor the after effects of the star following the jet burst, to begin to collect new information and data that might shed some light upon how this seemingly impossible phenomenon was able to occur. They carefully recorded the X-ray and radio emissions that followed the sudden jet burst to determine what might have caused the initial eruption. Currently, it seems that the neutron star has a nearby companion star that it is absorbing material from. This material, once attracted to the neutron star, condenses into a mass of orbiting flattened matter known as an accretion disk, which interacts with the strangely powerful magnetic field of the neutron star in order to spark the production of the jets at the star's poles. Although this is the current prevailing theory based on the immediate analysis of the other effects of the jet, there are other theories that could also explain why such an unexpected event occurred, including the stellar winds and shock waves generated within the accretion disk. It is important to remember that these are simply preliminary theories that cannot yet be taken as fact. For now, scientists are intensely working to study other neutron stars in the hopes that they might be able to observe jets occurring under similar circumstances to further verify one of these new hypotheses. Jupiter's Great Red Spot may survive by eating smaller storms. Jupiter's famous Great Red Spot is undoubtedly the storm to end all storms. A massive anticyclonic high-pressure storm with swirling winds that rage at speeds over 400 kilometers per hour. It holds the title of the largest storm so far discovered in the solar system. And recently, scientists may be none other than storm cannibalism of sorts. In the past few years, some thought that the Great Red Spot may have been well on the way towards running out of steam at long last, as it appeared as though it was slowly decreasing in size. Additionally, smaller anticyclones, which were smaller than the megastorm but still about half the size of Earth, kept running into the storm, and it appeared that they were taking small bites out of the swirling clouds, and further decreasing the size. Upon further study, researchers now believe that the opposite is true. Rather than shrinking the Great Red Spot, the smaller anticyclones were being consumed by the larger storm, resulting in the latter increasing its internal rotation velocity and further fueling the enormous swirling mass. Because anticyclones, like the Great Red Spot, are composed of high-powered winds, the churning around a central area of intense pressurized air, when the smaller anticyclones collide, the larger storm effectively steals their rotational wind and uses it as a power-up of sorts in order to increase its own wind speeds. This process is what caused the storm to appear to shrink, when it was simply absorbing the forces of the smaller storms to become even stronger. Once the energy has been absorbed from the storm collision, the Great Red Spot would return to its previous size. Essentially, although it appeared that the smaller storms, named flakes, because of the way that they appear to flake off parts of the cloud swirling over the Great Red Spot, appeared to be shrinking the size of the storm, the larger storm was feeding on the flakes to become even stronger. The process of absorbing the energy from the anticyclones made the clouds covering the Great Red Spot contract and shrink, making it seem as though the storm itself was growing smaller. However, the entire time that researchers were attempting to discover what was happening to Jupiter's famous spot and why it appeared as though it was running out of energy, the powerful vortex at the center of the storm underneath the clouds was becoming ever stronger as it powered the winds that swirl famously across Jupiter's surface. Although the shrinking size and the deceptive nature of the flakes made it seem as though the Great Red Spot was going to disappear forever, scientists were very quickly reminded that, when it comes to space, not everything is as it seems, as the famous Great Red Spot was simply becoming stronger than ever. TI 1685b Super Earth. Just because we have not yet found planets that host life does not mean that planets like our own actually exist. In fact, there are many exoplanets that scientists have discovered in recent years that share enough key characteristics with Earth to be dubbed Earth-like by scientists and astronomers. Such planets are valuable points of study in the search for answers regarding how our planet alone out of all of the others managed to create the perfect conditions to be able to host the wide variety of life that we see around us each day. One such planet named TOI 1685b is especially interesting and has been called the extreme super-Earth by those studying its properties. And upon closer examination of the properties, it's not hard to see where the adjective super comes from. The exoplanet orbits a small red dwarf star a little over 120 light-years from Earth at a mind-bending speed. Whereas it takes our planet 365 days to circle the Sun, TOI 1685b manages to complete orbit of its own star in only 0.67 Earth days. Additionally, even though red dwarfs are small and usually not as bright as other stars, that it manages to stay quite warm with a surface temperature of almost 800 degrees Celsius or 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. TOI 1685b is about 1.7 times bigger than Earth and almost 4 times as massive, with a bulk density of slightly over 4 grams per cubic centimeter. All of these numbers might not seem like much, but they make this planet the least dense, ultra-short period planet around an M-dwarf known to date. According to the paper announcing the discovery of this interesting planet, TOI 16855b was discovered by a team of researchers led by Paz Blum from Germany's Heidelberg University, who studied observations recorded by NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite. TESS has uncovered many exoplanets and works by identifying the location of transits or the small, hardly noticeable places where planets cross in between their host star and Earth, creating a tiny blip in the measured brightness from the star. Once Tess flagged the blip created by this new exoplanet, Bloom and her team were quickly able to confirm the planet's existence and gather the basic facts about it, including its rapid speed and relatively high temperatures by using the Carmony spectrograph instrument at the Cala Alto Observatory in Spain. The unique characteristics of this planet make it an interesting one for further study, and, luckily for researchers, its high surface temperatures mean that it will be much easier to observe using other methods and instruments, especially those that observe different wavelengths. It seems that there might be even a second neighboring planet orbiting this host star, although if present it does not transit, meaning that it will likely be hard to confirm its existence. Because this is still a relatively new discovery, the potential to uncover even more exciting information as studies of the interesting super-Earth exoplanet continue is very high, leaving researchers waiting in anticipation for more information to emerge. But what do you make of these outer space discoveries? What exists in the vast expanse above our heads? Space is not a rare topic around here, and for good reason. New, fascinating discoveries are being made nearly every day, and each time we discover a new piece of the universal puzzle, we are just one step closer to understanding the whole picture. So today, we will be learning about just 3 new space discoveries that will surely bring stars to your eyes. Or an expert engineer, buckle in and prepare for liftoff as we explore 3 recent space discoveries. Aliens could be sucking energy from black holes. One way that we might be able to spot distant extraterrestrials is from their ability to harness the power of black holes, scientists have said in a recent report. The potential that distant alien civilizations could be sucking up the energy from black holes could also mean that we would be able to spot it from millions of miles away. The idea is that a kind of technology that harvests the energy of a black hole could leave traces behind. The evidence of such a technology would exist close by to the black hole's event horizon, which is the threshold at which no matter, not even light, can escape. Some have posited that this scenario could explain examples of plasma flares observed in the past, which have been seen to occur nearby black holes. In fact, a new study published in the journal this year has suggested just that. At the moment, this is all conceptual, but the hope is that the black holes will be visible, is that eventually we may one day be able to harness such a technology ourselves. Such a possibility could give us a near-endless supply of energy, even if the nearest black hole is over 1,000 light-years away. In a closer timescale, astrophysicists are hopeful that a distant, advanced civilization might use similar energy-capturing methods. Luca Camiso, an astrophysicist from Columbia University, as well as co-author of the recent study, said that the most important stage now is to determine what this sort of energy extraction might look like from great distances, such as from Earth. In a statement to Live Science, Camiso said that it's this exact line of questioning that could help us find faraway alien civilizations. We have only done the physics in this paper, he said, but I am now working with a colleague of mine to apply this to reality, to look for civilizations to try to see what kind of signal you would need to look for. Mysterious kick just after the Big Bang may have created dark matter. The Big Bang is a mysterious and mind-boggling thing to comprehend. It was the instant that all matter in the universe was created and has understandably been the focus of much research. The same sort of interest lies with dark matter too. The mysterious substance that is ever present but is totally ignorant of light. And it turns out the 2 areas might be more connected than we think. In the universe, there is both matter and antimatter in equal quantities. When they come into contact, they cancel each other out and are destroyed. And yet, when all the matter and antimatter in the universe were first created, they should have instantly annihilated themselves. But since we are here, that clearly didn't happen. There was some sort of trigger, some sort of kick that produced a surplus of matter. This answers the question of why there is a greater amount of matter compared to antimatter today. Subsequently, it could be because of this kick that dark matter came into existence. The biggest issue with dark matter is, well, we do not really know what exactly it is. We know that it exists, and we know that it takes up about 80% of all matter in the universe. That means with everything we can observe from Earth, all the galaxies, stars, planets, and moons, it is all just a fraction of how much dark matter is out there. But the perplexing thing is that although dark matter takes up much of the universe, it does not seem to have much of an effect on it. As reported in Live Science, when one process dominates an interaction, it really takes over unless other physics comes into play. Rarely do two competing forces come out in balance. This can be shown in the process of when stars collapse. Gravity and electromagnetism are in competition inside of the star until gravity eventually dominates and the star collapses and becomes a black hole. The paper is just the tip of the iceberg in our understanding of dark matter, but it does lead us down a potential path for discovering the truth. NASA finds lost galaxy in the Virgo cluster. It might sound strange that a galaxy could go missing. After all, they are pretty big. In astronomical terms, it is a bit more understandable that your favorite pair of socks go missing in the dryer than a giant celestial body going AWOL. But a galaxy was in fact lost until a recent discovery found it. The story begins back in the 1950s when an amateur astronomer named Leland S. Copeland pointed his telescope towards a faraway galaxy in what's known as the Virgo constellation. It was there that Copeland saw a strange spiral shape built up of dust. Being a poet by trade, Copeland named the discovery the Lost Galaxy. The thing is, the galaxy was never lost. What Copeland was seeing was huge plumes of gas being illuminated by stars. Unfortunately for the poet-cum-astronomer, technology during his lifetime was simply unable to process the galaxy in accurate detail. The result was a blurry haze, thus making the galaxy look lost in the lack of resolution. The missing galaxy's official name is NGC 4535, and it is one of the largest of the 2,000 or so galaxies in the Virgo cluster, which sits around 50 million light-years from Earth. Now, using modern technology, we are able to view the once hazy galaxy in full detail. And what our modern methods show is that the galaxy is not lost at all, but made of countless glistening stars. NASA's Hubble telescope has captured impressive photos of the galaxy, which shows many similarities to our own Milky Way. The lost galaxy is what is known as a barred spiral, which is the same kind as our own Milky Way. These types of galaxies are made of huge swirls of stars with a bar structure in the center. Interestingly, the colors seen on the images of the lost galaxy can tell us a lot about its background. For example, in the yellow hues seen at the galaxy's center, we can see that the region is home to the galaxy's oldest and coldest stars. Conversely, the areas with bluer colors are where hotter and younger stars reside, helping to illuminate the galaxy's famous haze. Recent technology demonstrates that we have a much easier time at spotting the lost galaxy compared to Copeland. So much so that the galaxy is being studied specifically to help our understanding of spiral galaxies. On January 11, 2022, NASA officially released images of the lost galaxy as part of an ongoing research effort that is focused on spiral galaxies that are relatively nearby. The survey, officially known as the Physics at High Angular Resolution in Nearby Galaxy, boasts many stunning photographs of these distant and once lost celestial objects. What do you make of these outer space discoveries? The scientific community is making new discoveries with each passing day, from new methods to new breakthroughs or brand new discoveries. So today, we will be taking a look at 3 discoveries you may have missed. Siwil possible uncontacted tribe. Siwil are considered to be a race of wild humanoids, a species that closely resembles humankind but with notable significant differences. Thought to be similar to known humanoid species in Indonesia, Siwil lives in the jungles of Java, also in Indonesia, mostly surrounding Meru Batiri National Park. Siwil is derived from the Japanese word meaning little, so it should come as no surprise that the distinctive differences between the human race and Siwil tribe is size. A physical account of the Siwil tribe describes them as reaching less than a meter in height, traveling unclothed and in groups with a fair amount of body hair and hair that reaches to their shoulders. These humanoids often frequent areas surrounding water in order to access seafood such as fish, crab, and shrimp, which we believe composes the main basis of their diet. Fishing often takes place using handcrafted tools such as spears, as well as small bags in order to carry their food and supplies. While us humans appear keen to interact and increase our sightings, The Sibyl tribe have been known so far to run from humans or jump in order to flee from us. These humanoids have a reputation for their agility, being able to jump to both impressive heights and lengths when you consider their relative height. What makes these humanoids unique is how advanced they appear to be. The tribe seems to be remarkably close to human life like ourselves. Sibyl live and function as part of a community, and their relatively advanced tools indicate a higher intelligence than other known humanoid tribes. For example, the Orang Pendek tribe is referred to as being similar to small gorillas, and the Ibagogo having a close resemblance to orangutans. Harabuti Irmawan, a municipal council member, explored the jungles of Java to aim to find the Sibyl. He saw them, but, in keeping with expectations, the men ran. Strangely, when Irmawan took some covert photos from a distance, the photos were developed to reveal only background, with the Sibyl tribe members being absent from the frame. Anand Gretano ventured with the Mysterious Tracks team in order to find the Sibyl people in 2011, and they saw tracks they had left. Gretano discovered some tracks along the estuary of the Nangalang River with the length from toe to ankle reaching just 9.2 centimeters and only 2 centimeters in width. Video footage was retrieved in which 3 men can be seen to run into the jungle. The video suggested the Sibyl tribe make a phonetic sound likened to a monkey. For now, we remain unable to contact this tribe, though hopefully this can change their future. Plenty of animals, humanoids and monsters live on the brink of discovery, and while for now we watch from a distance, reporting encounters and taking photos, perhaps one day we can truly understand the other life that lives amongst us on Earth. Why elephants are passing away for decades. We have known some species of elephants, particularly Asian elephants, have been endangered, nearing extinction, often hunted and poached for their tusks, in order to gain ivory for decor or medicinal purposes. But 2020 has seen an awful phenomenon in elephants rapidly passing away, where poaching and us humans now pose less of a threat to these creatures than the currently unknown cause of death. The last death count from this nameless killer is 350, although estimates suggest the reality is a much higher figure. May and June saw what is being dubbed a conservation disaster in which elephants began mysteriously passing away. Regardless of their age, gender, and prior health, all elephants appeared to be equally affected. Are there connections between the passing of these elephants? Research showed many would walk in circles before collapsing. With no other indicators, it has been hard for scientists to determine how and why this is happening. Okavango Delta in Botswana saw the first initial deadly mysterious outbreak. This reduced the hundreds of elephants visible from above to only 8, all having either passed away or fled from the danger lurking. Unfortunately, the tragedy of this tale isn't over yet, as soon after seemingly random passing of several more elephants in the neighboring countries in Zimbabwe. Could this be a link? How do we find out if these horrific events are connected to one another? Scientists believe finding a fresh carcass may allow some truth to be found as to what is behind this rapid conservation disaster. The lack of definitive answers to hand has led to many theories and speculation, with the possibility of human poisoning being deemed unlikely due to the lack of chemicals such as cyanide found when testing. Furthermore, a hunter's desire for ivory was not satisfied, as corpses showed the tusks remained untampered with and in good condition. So if not humans, what causes may be plausible? Current research suggests neurotoxins in algal blooms or encephalomyocarditis may be the cause of this devastation. Approximately 70% of these elephants passed away near waterholes. Toxins within the water were initially eliminated as possibilities due to elephants being the only species to suffer. But further research may have discovered elephants are simply more vulnerable to these toxins due to the large time they spend within the water, the sheer volume of water they consume within the day, and the quantity of olfactory receptors within their trunks. This combination means elephants are likely to have had much greater exposure to the toxins than other animal species potentially drinking the same water, therefore making them more susceptible to falling ill if this is indeed a waterborne illness. This possible explanation is supported by Professor Christine Godson from the University of Liverpool, who has an experienced background in studying the toxicology of chemical warfare. Her research states a possible passing of these creatures could be a recently found bacterial toxin called BMAA or beta-methylamino-L-alanin, which is produced by algae. Beached whales and dolphins who have tested positive for this toxin had also shown symptoms of disorientation. Could the mysterious act of walking in circles before they passed away be an indicator of the lost and bewildered behavior symptomatic of the BMAA toxin? While this certainly sounds like a plausible explanation, BMAA is typical to marine environments and not the fresh water of the waterhole, leading some scientists to question whether there could realistically be a high enough concentration of toxins within the water to take the life of an elephant. The second factor prominent as a possible explanation is a rodent virus. Many animals, when ill, will instinctively search for water. So many corpses close to water does not necessarily mean that the water hole was a source of a poison or the cause of death. After a string of consecutive dry summers, the summer showers of 2020 have led to a surge in farming success, causing rodents and elephants alike to flock to the croplands. The defecation on the grass and crops by rodents that then elephants may eat allows for the potential for an elephant to contract the rodent viruses, namely EMC. This is a well-established cause of the passing in elephants previously, for example zoos that have a large number of rats. Accounts given by witnesses describe elephants stopping within their tracks, which aligns with the behavior and actions seen in cases confined to zoos. However, research suggests EMC is more likely to terminate males, whereas this was not the case in Botswana. Extensive testing and research are the only ways to determine the root of this issue. We can only hope this incident remains an isolated and rare occurrence. Ozone hole near South Park shrinks to smallest size ever. Humanity's impact on the Earth is well known, and our impact on the ozone layer is one that has incited significant action since it was growing year on year. In 2019, the hole in the ozone layer near the South Pole shrunk to its smallest size since 1982. It is not actually a hole, but merely an area with depleted levels of ozone. Specifically an area in which ozone concentrations drop below the historical threshold of 222 Dobson units. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, known as NOAA, polar orbiting satellites are used to monitor the ozone hole. According to NASA and the NOAA, the Antarctic ozone hole was affected by abnormal weather patterns in 2019, limiting ozone depletion, which led to the smallest ozone hole since 1982. Ozone, which is comprised of 3 oxygen atoms, occurs naturally in the stratosphere and adds protection to the planet from ultraviolet solar radiation, which can cause cataracts and skin cancer. Stratospheric ice clouds form in the Antarctic when temperatures fall below -78 Celsius, and these clouds promote production of chlorine and bromine, which when combined with sunlight in the Antarctic spring causes a reaction that leads to a loss of ozone, resulting in the Antarctic ozone hole. The annual ozone hole reached its peak extent of 6.3 million square miles on September 8, 2019, and then shrank to less than 3.9 million square miles for the remainder of September and October. Unusually warm weather led to the smaller ozone depletion. Similar weather patterns in 1988 and 2002 also resulted in atypically small ozone holes. Normal weather conditions tend to result in a maximum area of about 8 million square miles in late September or early October. The 2019 weather systems were unusually strong, warming the Antarctic stratosphere. It was 16 Celsius warmer than average during September, a time where ozone destruction is normally at its peak. According to NASA, it was the warmest September for 40 years. The Antarctic polar vortex was also weakened, moving its center, which is normally over the South Pole. This slowed vortex rotation, allowing air to sink in the lower stratosphere, which impacted the ozone hole in 2 ways. It minimized the persistence of polar stratospheric clouds and allowed ozone-rich air from elsewhere in the southern hemisphere to travel to above the Antarctic ozone hole area. There is a massive variability each year with the size of the ozone. Whilst 2019 was the smallest on record since 1982, the 2020 hole is above average for the last decade. On September 20, 2020, the annual ozone hole reached its peak area at 9.6 million square miles, driven by persistent cold temperatures and strong circumpolar winds, similar to the value recorded in 2018. However, by approximately 2070, scientists expect the ozone hole to shrink back to the in 1980. But what do you make of these three discoveries? Scientists have done a great job at mapping our history, detailing that past civilizations grew rapidly due to their understanding of things like agriculture. From there, they would build impressive structures that have withstood the test of time. One thing scientists have been vocal about, though, is the fact that around 97% of human history has been lost. Ancient civilizations were often artistic in their depictions, from planets, gods, and nature. However, there's some that have argued that some of these depictions may have a deeper meaning. These photographs have started to make the rounds on social media, depicting what some have described as large heads, with strange symbols on it. Interestingly, this isn't the first time that something like this has been discovered, and every time they make their way to the internet, it leads to an interesting discussion, with people sharing their theories on what they think it depicts. There's some who have said that these could be ancient artworks that were created by a previous civilization, perhaps depicting something they encountered. These photographs were recently shared on social media, detailing that diggers in Mexico had found mysterious artifacts while exploring a newly dug tunnel. These depictions are interesting because they match drawings that have been found in cave systems. What they are is up for debate. There's a group of people that think they depict an advanced lost civilization, noting that different cultures have depicted these beings with large skulls, while others think they may have created these artifacts based on hallucinations and dreams. These depictions have reminded some of the elongated skulls that have been found in various different countries. Some archaeologists have pointed out that these skulls are much different from modern humans, with some of them having up to 30 to 40% more volume. For years now, mysteries have centered around these mysterious elongated skulls that were recovered near Paracas within Peru. This was back in 1928, when Peruvian archaeologist Judo Teo visited the Pisco province and discovered more than 300 elongated skulls. They were discovered in what was considered an ancient graveyard on the Paracas Peninsula. The discovery of elongated skulls is not a new one in the realm of archaeology. However, as a number of ancient cultures were known to deform the skulls of newborns. This was as they were young because the skulls could be manipulated more easily. Create an elongated head was to show it's a form of higher social status. Such cultures include that of the ancient Mayan civilization, as well as the enigmatic macrocephaly, also known as the long heads. Scientists have said they've found evidence of cranial deformation in different regions. There's also many that have said that these artifacts are fake. However, some of the diggers have come forward in detail that they weren't looking for these things and were just carrying out construction in the area. A few years back, diggers who were working on the mine train said that they found things that were similar to this. At the time, construction work was underway to build a large railway in Mexico, with the construction beginning in December of 2018. Due to many locals seeing these artifacts, it led to some local news stations covering the discoveries. However, they quickly vanished from the limelight. These discoveries were made in a region known as Quintana Roo. There's no other way to describe these artifacts other than they look like mysterious humanoids, possessing big eyes, a large oval head, and just matching the overall description of a mysterious humanoid. Has had social media users convinced that they're the real deal and that perhaps civilizations thousands of years ago had a mysterious encounter. Not everyone was impressed with the findings, though, with one Mexican archaeologist saying that these are fangs, and that although they were allegedly found with other Mayan artifacts, it's thought that they were placed there in order to make the findings seem more genuine. With others saying the following: if this was the real deal, it would be one of the biggest archaeological discoveries ever made. I can't find much information about this either. Searching Google only brings up a few results. I think these are fake. As someone pointed out, though, it seems like a lot of work to go through. Some have asked why would someone build these if an archaeologist is just going to shut them down. With another user saying the following: I'm on edge about these discoveries. On one hand, they sound too good to be true, but on the other, I want to believe. I'm sure if these are real, though they'll likely be taken and stored away somewhere. I doubt this will be given any serious consideration. After all, could you imagine if these turned out to be real? It would pretty much rewrite history in this area. Another user said the following: with much of our history lost, perhaps we are misinterpreting these things. It seems like a lot of work to go through just to place down a fake artifact. Maybe there was a civilization that worshipped these entities as a god, and so in return they would create these depictions of them to show their dedication. Kinda how the ancient Egyptians worshipped gods like Thoth, who is depicted as having the body of a man and the head of an ibis. So what do you make of these interesting discoveries? Do you think they're just pieces of artwork? Or do you think they were created by one of the ancient civilizations that lived in the area?